In Genesis 1:28, God tells Adam and Eve to be fruitful and multiply. What does that mean? He told them to go have sex. Let's talk about it. Sex is a subject that we as Bible-believing, Christ-following people need to talk about. We need to learn about, and we need to understand. The world has flipped sex into this careless yet glorified act that has been twisted and turned into something that God did not create it to be. It's something that we do to release some stress or to give into our lustful temptations and our lustful feelings, and we just take it for granted these days. And so today I think that it's a good idea to have the conversation about what sex is, what sex's purpose is, and why God created it. So we're just going to get into it. Hey, it's Desiree. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. If you see something that you like, please like, subscribe, and share to whoever you think needs to hear this message. And guys, comment. I want to hear your comments about this subject, because this is something that we as Christians need to talk about. Okay, so let's get into it. So we're taught from a young age that sex is like not a big deal. Everyone does it. Everyone will do it. And just, if you're gonna do it, just make sure that you strap up, don't get an STI, and don't have an unwanted pregnancy. And that's like kind of the biggest things that we think of, like, oh, I don't want to get herpes, I don't want to get AIDS, oh, I'm too young to have a baby, whatever. But there's actually so much more to sex than that. God created sex, and it is powerful. He created it to make people one. And excuse me, I'm looking at my notes, but I just don't think that we are really warned these days about how powerful and how traumatic having sex with the wrong person and in the wrong situation can be. I mean, sometimes the church talks about it, but not really as often as it should. And this is something that we as people, just in general, everybody feels lust. Everybody feels that passion of the flesh, and sometimes we give in. But what we don't realize is when we give in, we are giving in to so much more than what the media and what music and movies and TV shows and the internet and everything else, what everybody cracks it up to be. It's so much more than that. So let's really break it down. I want to break it down so we get to the nitty gritty as to why sex is sacred and it's held to the standard between a married man and woman. So I think it's obvious that one of the reasons why God created sex is because we needed to multiply. We needed to procreate. This is how he designed us to be able to procreate, humans and animals, certain animals, and yeah, whatever. Maybe you need some plants. I don't know. I don't remember. But sex is how we do that. And so I think this is not something I had planned to talk about, but like that shows like how necessary it is, and obviously it's necessary for procreation, but he wanted to make sure that we did not leave sex out, and know for a fact that he created it. And the enemy has really tried to pervert it, but really it's something so beautiful. And one of the reasons why it's beautiful is because it's actually a covenant. And so the definition of a covenant is an agreement by lease, deed, or legal contract. And in this case, the legal contract is sex. It's crazy. Let me explain. At the physical level and spiritually, really, sex can be a blood covenant. Now, what is a blood covenant? A blood covenant is when two people's blood gets mixed and then you guys become bonded as one. And so the reason why I say sex can be a blood covenant, if it's not already obvious to you, is that we're going to look at the circumstance of someone losing their virginity. And so when a woman loses her virginity, and this is not always, everybody's bodies are different, but usually they have a hymen that is still intact. And when that hymen is popped, quote unquote popped, I don't know the actual term, people call it popping the cherry, you know, whatever. When it's popped, then blood is shed during that process, and usually when you're losing your virginity, blood is being shed in that case. And then when you look at a man who ejaculates, who finishes, or you know, whatever you want to call it, there is actually blood in that semen. And so whether you know it or not, you are creating a sexual blood covenant with somebody, and it is deep. And let me just look at my notes. You're mended spiritually and physically, and so that is why sex in that case is something that is not only physical but spiritual at the same time. Now, okay, say you're not a virgin, say you're using a condom, whatever the case may be, this is still a physical a spiritual practice. This is still very spiritual as well as physical. And so let's get into the deeper spiritual side of it. So when you're having sex with someone, you are able to transfer attitudes, emotions, and in some cases spirits. And I'm not talking about the Holy Spirit, okay? Spirits can be sexually transmitted. And so yeah, I'm talking about sexually transmitting demons. And you are literally opening yourself up and transferring certain things. Even, what are they called? Sexologists, they've come up to the conclusion that during sex and sexual intercourse, you are actually transferring energy to one another and from one another. You are purely open, and you are just transferring your energy. It's not completely how we Christians see it, but there's something to it. You are definitely transferring part of you into them and them into you. And so as you can imagine, having sex with the wrong person can be very spiritually dangerous. Very spiritually dangerous, because if you're having sex with the wrong person, you don't know what you might be picking up. You don't know what insecurities you might be picking up. You don't know what kind of anger problems you might be picking up. You don't know what kind of lust on top of the lust you already have you might be picking up. You just don't know, because these spirits, they transfer, and one of the easiest ways to transfer is through sex. You know, maybe you've never even dealt with anxiety, maybe you've never even dealt with depression, but after having sex with somebody, you might start to feel those things, and I'm sure you're wondering why. Well, I'm giving you the answer now. Is because that person transferred over to you the things that was messing with them and that was attached to them. They are now giving you some of that, and it's not leaving them, it's just adding on to you. And honestly, I believe that when we are sinning, just sinning in general, we are opening ourselves up to the enemy. We are actually legally allowing the enemy to come and mess with our lives. We're like, hey, I'm here, come get me. I'm out here wilding and I don't care, da da da. And you might care at the time. You might feel convicted. But either way, you are opening yourself up spiritually. And the crazy thing is with sex is that it is already the most intimate, open, vulnerable, deepest way two humans can interact with each other. And so why wouldn't the enemy decide to choose to jump on that time when you are the most vulnerable that you could possibly ever be? That's something to think about. And you know, not only can these negative things be passed on to you, but if you happen to procreate with that person, there is a good chance that your child will deal with those spirits that you deal with. And that's like a whole nother topic and a whole nother video that we could do. But this is personally one of the reasons why even myself, there's things that I have to work on myself before I want to procreate. But imagine procreating with somebody that you don't even care about, that you don't even really know, and you just treating it willy-nilly. Like the media says that you can, get on Tinder and do one swipe right. I don't know, y'all. I've never used Tinder, but swipe whatever way you swipe, meet somebody, hook up with them, and it's fine. It's harmless. You use protection. It's over. That was a one night stand. That's not a thing. You will be affected whether you know it or not. You're being affected. Sex is not made to be something willy-nilly. Sex is made to bond two people together. And this is why sex is so important in marriage. But before I get there, I'm going to read 1 Corinthians 7:2. It says, "Nevertheless, to avoid fornication, let every man have his own wife, and let every woman have her own husband." Basically, that verse was saying, if you feel like you got to do it, if you feel like you have to have sex, you better do some self-work, lean into God, let him clean you out, let him do what you must, and get them ready for marriage, and get you ready for marriage, and then go ahead and marry somebody. Because if you can't hold that fornication in, then you need to go ahead and get married. And I said all that before because you don't want to just jump into marriage because you need to have sex. You need to definitely be leaning on God. And so he can clean the things out of you and prepare you for that covenant, because marriage is a covenant of itself. But going back to why sex is so important for marriage is because it's literally sometimes, like, just from my experience of being married, sometimes you need that extra glue. Sex is literally put there to help you overlook certain things. It's like a glue to keep you together. And so though sex leaves you spiritually vulnerable, it's actually created so we can share those emotions, share those attitudes, even share those struggles with our partner. Because when you get married, you become one with that person, and therefore your problems are their problems, and their problems are your problems, and your joys are their joys, and their joys are your joys, and money, everything. You guys are all one being. And so marriage or sex helps make that a thing in marriage. It keeps you connected with your spouse. And I think that it's interesting that mostly when people are getting divorced, a lot of the times you hear that they haven't had sex and and it's just not big in their marriage anymore, or whatever the case may be, because that is the glue that we use to stick together. And imagine putting that glue with people that you don't need to be with. Your soul is going to be attached to them. That's going to be a soul tie that you didn't even care to have. But I don't know, just sex is like an adhesive that is stronger than any other adhesive there is. Like, you are gluing your soul to another person, and that is just so spiritually dangerous if you're not doing it with the right person. And I just want to say this real quick. If we're just having sex with any and everybody, imagine how out of whack you're going to be mentally, physically, spiritually, attaching yourself to multiple different people. We're not only being vulnerable with ourselves and the other person, but we're also being vulnerable with the enemy. The enemy is looking for any window that he can to slide in to steal, kill, and destroy. And this is why Romans 12:2 says, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is his good, pleasing, and perfect will." We are not for everybody. We are to be set apart. We are not the same. We are not like everybody else. God calls us to be set apart and to do the things that he's asked us to do. And what people seem to forget about God is that he's telling us to do these things for our own good. He's telling us. And I'll tell you what, That's true. Because coming from somebody who did not save themselves for marriage and went ahead and had sex with people before I got married, I literally regret all of it. I literally regret all of it, because sex is supposed to be something that you learn together with your spouse. It's supposed to be not only spiritually and physically and emotionally bonding, but it's just like a journey that you guys bond together and learn each other's body and learn the art of sex and all this stuff. And honestly, I wish I got to do that with my husband, and I wish the same for him and me. And really, everybody's different, right? And so when you're coming in with all these different experiences with different people, and then you find your spouse, you're expecting something that so-and-so did, a couple years ago. You're expecting, whatever. And it kind of warps your idea of what making love is, because in all reality, maybe you did have love for them and maybe you loved them, but that's not your spouse. And when you get married, that love for your spouse is completely different than any other love that you've ever had. And so you just don't want to warp your perspective. I wish I realized that beforehand. My mom and grandparents and dad and stuff, they did tell me that I should wait and all this stuff, and I really didn't understand why. I understood it was wrong. I understood that the Bible says not to, and that's what we believe, so don't do it. And my mom even did go into some of the spiritual soul tie. She didn't really explain it too spiritual, but the soul ties is what she was explaining, and I didn't pay it no mind. So I just encourage you, if you've made it this far, keep going, because it's going to be worth it. That bond, oh my gosh, it's going to be even better. Your marriage is going to be even crazy good, because you waited, and hopefully your spouse is waiting as well. But if not, that's okay, guys. I don't want you guys to feel like, oh, I have not kept myself until marriage. Today's a new day. If you're not married and you want to try this, and you want to try celibacy, oh my gosh, it is so worth it. It is something, this is time where God can work on you. You can really just lean into him and really spend time with him and allow him to transform you. Paul actually said that it's better to not be married so you can focus on God. That's literally what he said before Romans 12:2, where he said, oh wait, no, not Romans. 1 Corinthians 7:2, when he said, nevertheless, to avoid fornication, let every man have his own wife, and let every woman have her own husband. He literally right before said, it's better not to get married, because he wants you to focus on God. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't get married, but I'm just saying that while you're single, instead of giving your spirit out to all these different people and giving into the enemy, think about it in the way that you could be giving yourself to God, and you could be spending that time with him for him to grow you. And I don't want you to, if you have already, I do not want you to feel condemned. There's no condemnation when you're with Christ. It's none of that. Just know that he loves you. You are forgiven, and today's a new day, and we're just going to keep trying, and we're just going to keep living our lives to please him, and that's it. And to serve him and to love him, and while doing that, everything that you need will be added unto you, because you are serving and you are living for him, Jesus Christ. And I just want to say this. Remember when I was like, sex was a blood covenant? Well, you know what else is a blood covenant? The covenant that the bride, aka the church, aka us, has with Christ. Sex is just another activity that foreshadowed the goodness of Jesus and the goodness of God, and how he's made a covenant to save us. Anyway, thank you guys for watching this video. Again, please comment. I want to hear your thoughts on this. I don't know. know, just whatever comes to mind, whatever you need prayer about. Me and my husband are definitely praying for you guys. And like, subscribe, and share, and don't forget to hit the bell so you don't miss out on any videos. But I love you guys. Hey, it's Desiree, and I'll see you later.